It is the fourth day of the 8th month of the year 2023, a day that we're here to inform you on what's happening in the country and beyond. And we have a lot of stories making headlines tonight. Among them, a gold rush in Kisii areas where people have started digging up tarmac or maram that was already laid to be able to get gold. And of course, police have been there to lob tear gas for this particular reason. So we have that and much more stories. But first we get a proper introduction and then we get straight into the discussion. This is KUTV Primetime News with MUTEGI K. Martin. Our sign language interpreter goes by the name EVALYN LANGAT. My name is MUTEGI K. Martin. Welcome to the broadcast. Now, ministries, state departments and agencies have been given until the 15th of this month of August to hand in their annual assets reports to the National Treasury. This was announced during the annual Principal Secretaries Workshop. And according to the Principal Secretaries for National Treasury, Chris Kipto, and his Performance Management and Delivery of Services counterpart, Anne Wangombe, these guidelines are aimed at streamlining assets management and accountability in government departments.
The sensitization workshop on financial reforms on asset and inventory management in government brought together principal secretaries and state officers from the expanse of ministries, state departments and agencies, and even while the chief guest, Musalia Mudavadi, did not make to grace the event, he was duly represented by the Principal Secretary for Performance Management and Delivery of Services, Anne Wangombe. It was in this workshop that the government sounded its order to the heads of ministries, state departments and agencies to submit their annual assets reports latest 15th August without room for further extension.
The negative effects brought about by pending bills to our economy are enormous. Therefore, pending bills are now a matter of national interest to the government and our nation due to various reasons, including business shutting down, jobs being lost, lenders suffering, increase in non-performing loans, poverty increases, thus leading to dwindling of individual and national savings and economic growth.
In Mudavadi's remarks read by PS Wangombe, these new guidelines are in accordance with the government's agenda to accentuate financial reforms and digitization of government services, an agenda that is further enforced by the revamping of the vintage government finance management system, IFMIS.
The National Treasury has initiated fiscal reforms to automate assets and inventory management in ministries, state departments and agencies, and in county governments too. These reforms will be pursued in line with the government's bottom-up economic transformation agenda. For avoidance of doubt, the reforms are in tandem with our resolve to automate all government processes.
The ultimatum for submission of assets reports was rendered by Principal Secretary Chris Kipto on behalf of the National Treasury. Kipto also decried the backlog of pending bills that have incessantly crippled financial planning in the government for decades.
I need to confirm that for the last 7 years I've been PS. All audit reports for the ministries I've served have flagged out this issue. I don't know whether you guys have had the same. The issue of lack of comprehensive, accurate, and up-to-date asset management register. This cannot be a matter that comes up every year in an audit, and then it comes perennially.
The litany of ministerial reforms have encumbered state departmental heads with the cross of service delivery, as it remains to be seen what will be made of those who flout the new guidelines rolled out by President William Ruto's regime. Munaneweru KUTV.
Now, Kenya is aiming to further develop her ties with Israel as they celebrate their 60th year of collaboration. According to President William Ruto, the two states have the opportunity to have more collaboration in security, health, and blue economy. The president is also expected to have a 5-day visit in Mount Kenya to launch projects in Nyeri, Kirinyaga, and Kiambu counties.
President William Ruto has today met with Israel Ambassador to Kenya Rotem Michael to discuss ways of collaboration between Kenya and Israel, where the president explained that there is an opportunity to collaborate with Israel in the security sector, blue economy, irrigation, and improvement of the health sector. President Ruto emphasized that the relationship between Kenya and Israel has grown for many years because of the partnership in education, business, agriculture, and the security. On top of that, President Ruto is expected to visit Mount Kenya region on a 5-day visit starting tomorrow to launch projects in Kiambu, Nyeri, and Kirinyaga counties. Later, the president is expected to hold a cabinet meeting at Sagana State Lodge Hotel, Nyeri County.
During his tour, President Ruto will launch various projects aimed at improving the quality of the lives of the people in line with the government's bottom-up economic transformation agenda. This agenda will keep on repeating and reiterating, as the President says, prioritizes bringing down the cost of living, eradicating hunger, creating jobs, expanding the tax base, improving our foreign exchange balance, and promoting inclusive growth. The President will kick off the tour in Githurai, Kiambu County.
The President's visit comes at the wake of the bipartisan talks, which continue to cause conflicts among the Azimio team and the Kenya Kwanza team. Edward Nyamo, KUTV.
The Law Society of Kenya has today moved to court to challenge the implementation of the Finance Act 2023 as they demand for the government to halt the implementation of the act, citing that implementing the new law threatens both social and economic interest of Kenyans. This comes days after the High Court lifted the conservatory orders of the act.
Chama cha wanasheria nchini Kenya sasa wamechukua
We beg your pardon for that mix-up. We shall be bringing you up that story once it's ready. We now move on to the University of Nairobi, where the new council, which is chaired by Professor Amukoa Anangwe, has appointed Professor Julius Ogengo as UON acting vice-chancellor in place of Professor Stephen Kiama, installed on June 2020, who is on a 6-month leave from 1st August, citing differences between him and the University Council, with no interest of presenting his name on for reappointment in 2025 when his term expires. The appointment communication was sent by Director of Corporate Affairs John Orindi through an email to all UON students and staff. We now move from UON to KU, where today, being the last day of the History Education International Conference held at Kenyatta University, keynote speakers led by Professor Maurice N. Amutabi reviewed facts in today's textbook according to new evidence discovered. The speakers highlighted on avoiding tribal histories, citing that today's history should be reconstructed to give it a new direction, as history should be identified with facts and not years.
The last day of the Africa History Education saw keynote speakers led by Professor Maurice Amutabi from the Technical University of Kenya dwelling on creating a new image of history subject. According to Amutabi, there should be references of historical writers so as to trace the origin of the information, saying that a lot of information past is foreign.
So that we must begin to update these facts, that these books were written very many years ago. We must revise them and begin to revise these facts based on the new evidence that we are getting on the archaeologists. They're finding every day, they're finding something new. Revise those histories. Because the history that I did, the migration history in Form 4, which I passed very highly, in Form 6, which I passed very highly, the university, there are still some facts, yes, but there's new addition.
Additionally, history scholars have said that Africa in particular should create a positive image unlike the current history, which identifies Africa as a country full of poverty, adding that the images are exaggerated.
What I'm doing here is not even debunking Africa. What I'm doing here is actually what Africa was doing and which you are abusing by now bringing a nakedness and poverty to the front of the world. They have poverty there. There are beggars in America. There are destitutes in America. Homeless people who sleep on the streets. The percentage of homeless people in America is higher than those in Africa, by the way, if you didn't know that fact. In Africa, a relative will tell you now, I have nothing to give you, but you can sleep here and there will be food for us. There's no African home you'll go and knock and they deny you food and water. But in America, water is bought. Ask you, so you're going to pay for this.
However, in accordance to keynote speakers, moral questions should be asked in terms of poverty development, saying students should be engaged in history research, adding that policy in school must be transformational. However, according to them, there is need to enlighten young scholars on the source of history information for broader understanding. Moreover, in line with UNESCO, Africa history should be based in common heritage, language, freedom from racial prejudice. The main vision of UNESCO is to encourage intercultural learning with a need to establish the empathy of ethics in history subject. According to UNESCO, there is need to review history under the 3 pillars of African identity, which are history, language, and common heritage.
The next stage of this project is to take these materials and to translate them into guidance that will be useful and helpful for teachers and for educators. As you can see, they're quite large volumes of history, but therefore not quite so accessible to students. And we want to develop pedagogical materials so that we can really integrate these in education systems across Africa, but also globally as a perspective of African history for the world to really benefit from.
Introduction of general history of Africa subject in the African continent is in line with the aim of integrating the GHA curriculum in the education sector, Kenya being one of the countries that has adopted this in the CBC program. Edward Nyamo, KUTV.
All right, time for us to take a first short break right here on KUTV Primetime News. I'm sure you've heard of statements or words like autism, learning disorders, and all that, and including the tic disorder, which we will be talking about in this particular setup in a few minutes. We have an occupational therapist who is here to help us understand this family of disorders called neurodevelopmental orders. In just a bit, let's take a break. We'll be back in a bit. Don't go anywhere.
Are you an aspiring media practitioner, a graduate, or you just want to advance your skills in television production? Then welcome to Kenyatta University, where education meets innovation. KUTV, the premier university television station in Kenya, is now offering short courses in TV studio, field technical operations, and video editing. Through these courses, you will acquire hands-on skills on camera operations, media production, lighting techniques, audio-visual editing, and sound and visual control, and how to operate key equipment in modern TV control room. Enroll today at KUTV and discover your full potential in cutting-edge TV broadcasting. Graduates of these courses will receive professional certificates. For more information, visit our offices at KUTV Studios or call us on 020-870-4252 or 020-870-4255 or SMS us on 0739-110-544. KUTV, a new experience.
Mama twende, nani angeweza present, like let me say President, Miss Independent Kenya and Independent Kenyan Women Award.
All right, welcome back to this conversation. And if it's not your very first time to be in KTV, you know very well that every Friday we talk about health matters, we talk about environmental matters. And if you're new to this particular broadcast, welcome to KTV Primetime News on Friday, where we talk about health and environment. You can talk to us at KTV_Kenya on Twitter, at KTV Kenya on Facebook, KTV Kenya on YouTube. You can be sure to talk to us, and let's get into a very interesting conversation without wasting a lot of time. And our topic today is understanding neurodevelopmental disorders. And I happen to mention a few of them that you might have heard, some of the popular ones like autism and ADHD, which our guests will be giving in full and helping us understand how these disorders come about and how we can be able to take care of those that have been affected in our midst. Our guest is here, Boaz Kemboi, who is an occupational therapist at Kestrel Manor School. He's going to be telling me whether I pronounced that very well. Karibu sana Boaz Kemboi to this conversation.
Thank you very much.
Nimeisema vizuri ama we should get
Kestrel Manor School.
Kestrel Manor School.
Kestrel Manor School. Yes.
Kestrel Manor School.
Yes, the E sounds as O.
Kestrel. All right.
Yeah.
I need to go back to my English classes. Karibu sana to the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Briefly introduce yourself and what you do in detail.
Great. My name is Boaz Kemboi, as mentioned. I'm an occupational therapist by profession. I do take care of these kids with developmental disorders, and that's my work. And generally, we do make sure our kids are up to standard. We make sure our kids are in that position where we can say they are becoming like independent in their life and what have you. So forth, we will talk more.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let's get straight into it. What are these things we are calling neurodevelopmental disorders? What are they, and what are the other examples that I haven't mentioned? Because there could be quite many more that I have mentioned.
Good. So, neurodevelopmental disorders. Let's first understand the term neurodevelopmental. The term neuro means the nervous system. And the nervous system in this case defines the brain and the spinal cord. So the neurodevelopmental disorders, the development part of it is the growth, the normal growth. So when we say neurodevelopmental disorders, we are talking about these conditions that affect the development of the nervous system, therefore causing an abnormal brain function. I hope I have a simple explanation. Great.
That's good. Can you mention a few so that we know what we are actually working with tonight?
Yeah.
Or maybe all of them that are in your list, because we need to cover as much as we can.
Let me start with the common ones. We have the autism spectrum disorder. In most cases, it's known as ASD in an abbreviation. We have the ADHD. This is the attention deficit hyperactive disorder. We have cerebral palsy. We have at times spina bifida. So those are the main categories of neurodevelopmental disorders. And again, we have the specific learning disabilities, or again, what we call intellectual disabilities. So those are the kinds of neurodevelopmental disorders we have.
The most common.
The most common, yes.
Yes. I want us to treat this as just an introduction. This is scratching of the surface, because I believe each of these disorders deserve another special sitting So where we go deep and help help people understand what we're actually dealing with. But we're gonna group them for today because they are related. We're gonna group them today and see how they occur, when they come, and what we should do in situations that come around them. So when and how do these disorders come into the affected person's life?
So talking of when, mostly they happen after birth, and they're normally categorized in about 1 year to 3 years. That is when they happen. That is the point where you can now realize there is a problem with my child or my kid. So a period of about 1 to 3 years, that is where you can know. Yeah. Now, to answer your question, yes. Okay. How do they happen? So how, in this case, we are talking about the causes. So we have a variety of causes. First of all, we have the physical causes, we have the environmental causes, and we have the genetic causes. In most cases, these conditions are they are genetic, or it's believed to be caused by genetics because they don't have a specific cause. So coming to physical causes, there might be things like trauma, or a child can fall down, so and it causes damage in the brain, so it can cause so. Environmental factors, things like a mother may be taking drugs or alcohol during the time of pregnancy. That is when, when the mother is pregnant, the child is still developing. Oh, yes. So when she takes those drugs and what have you, it shrinks the brain of the child, so causing maybe abnormality. Yeah, so those are the main causes.
All right. So you say something very important where between the ages of 1 and 3,
yes,
the parent, the guardian, the older person in the child's life is supposed to be observing the growth of the child, and any anomalies that come now would start reflecting things in those lines. What are some of the things we should look out for even as we observe? Because I don't want us to assume that everyone knows how exactly a child, how the curve should go.
Yes.
So what exactly are we supposed to be observing as a child grows up, and what are the signs that show us there is something going wrong that we need to address as far as neurodevelopment is concerned?
Good. Yeah, and at times it's very difficult for some people to know, especially with their firstborns. Somebody may not know. But here are the symptoms or signs that we can have. Number 1, the developmental milestones of a child. The child is about 4 months, and there is no head control. The child is 8 months, she has not sat down. The child is about 1 year plus, there is no standing, either with support or independent. So the first one, if you see the delays in the developmental milestones, that is where you can know there is a problem with my child. Number 2, you can find the child not being active. In most cases, when the child is young, the occupation of the child is just a play. You can see playing with toys, something that's up there, playing around. So your child is just maybe silent. There is no active movement of the limbs. I'm talking about the upper limbs, the arms, and maybe the feet. There is no kicking. Again, you will find there is no eye tracking. You see, when you pass something like across the eyes of the child, she should be, or he should be in a position to maybe track. But in that case, your child will just be maybe staring at one place, kind of things. Another thing we can have is you will find maybe this child is low on muscles, what we call hypotonic. So the child is just maybe very, very weak. When you just hold him or her, it's just going by your whatever. And again, at times the child can be very, very stiff. You see, the muscles or the joints are very, very stiff. You try to move, it's very, very stiff. So those are the maybe signs and symptoms someone should worry about. Yeah.
Amazing. We get to a point where we have discovered that the child is not doing well in terms of neurodevelopment, and we, for example, I as a parent have seen something like that on my child. What is the first step that I should take? Should I come straight to the doctor? Should I look for you, who is an occupational therapist? Do I do home treatment? What is a recommended way of handling such delicate issues?
Yeah, so the procedure is when one maybe notices the kind of things, one should approach a doctor. In either way, because some people may not know about neurologists, because the people should handle them are the neurologists. So any doctor whom you visit should guide you on whether he or she is a neurologist, should be able to maybe handle the case. But in case she is not the one, she should refer you to a neurologist, a specific neurologist, for maybe some tests to be done and maybe to determine what kind of condition the child is suffering from. So the pathway is look for a doctor, and then the doctor now will give you the guide from there. Is she the right person to see, or is she not the right person to see? Yes, but in this case, the person to see is the neurologist.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk about the issues that stop parents and guardians from taking these children to seek medical services. I'm talking about issues like shame. We come from an African society which largely believes in things like witchcraft and being ashamed of things that they're not very conversant about. I'm talking about issues of hard economic times like what we are in right now. Is how expensive are these procedures? Before you tell us actually what happens in those procedures.
Okay.
How expensive are they, roughly, for a common mwananchi?
It's difficult to quantify because different doctors have different rates and different facilities have different rates. But the fact of the matter is it's expensive because you might find maybe a test will cost up to 15,000. Maybe seeing a doctor is about 5,000. You are referred to maybe another practitioner, maybe another 5,000. So in a common mwananchi language, they are quite expensive.
That's already like 25,000 in a day. Just the 3 items you've counted. And maybe more because there's medication probably brought into the picture.
Yes.
We're going to come back to the finances much later. Let's talk about shame and all that. There's a parent sitting down or just somewhere at home with their child. They have kept that issue to themselves. They have withdrawn from the public with their child because they're ashamed of this situation. They're ashamed that they, for lack of a better word, gave birth to a child who is not normal. What would you say to that parent, even as they seek to help this particular child?
Yeah, in most cases, we have these cultural beliefs and customs, and it hinders in so many ways of that child having a support or a support system. So the fact of the matter is, one who is having a child of that kind, it is not a mistake. It is not. It's not a matter of life and death. No. The thing is, the parents should just come out. I know there is stigma part of it, but we try as much as possible to maybe assure them that they'll be okay. So someone should not feel ashamed. Someone should not see like it's something difficult I can't manage. So just visit a doctor around you, and you will get help. Because at the end of the day, the more you prolong or stay with that child, the more the severity maybe goes up, or it accelerates. So it's high time to have that child maybe seen as fast as possible.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. You speak about acceleration of the severity of these particular disorders.
Yes.
How do you treat them? Are they totally curable? Are these disorders that we manage? As you manage as health specialists,
yes,
or are these incurable diseases? Where do they fall?
We can say it is. The fact of the matter is, they don't have a cure, but they are managed. In this case, in fact, you may not even know that someone is maybe having a challenge, a neurological disorder, because the symptoms and the signs and everything that the child presents, medication, therapies, So those are just examples of treatment they undergo. Because remember I said in the first, they don't have a cause. So anything that lacks a cause will lack a treatment. Yeah, but they'll be able to be managed. Yeah.
So what kind of therapy are we talking about?
In this case, we are talking about me, the occupational therapist.
I am talking about you.
Yes, you're talking about me.
Talk to me.
So us now, although I'm not alone, we have other cadres like physiotherapists, like orthopedic should come in, the nutritionist person should come in, the doctor should come in, and the nurses and no. So we play a very, very major role in making sure these children are back to their life. Because we as occupational therapists,